well against these stretch of decks, the Rogue and the Hunter specifically. Obviously, the next game is a mirror, obviously, as well. But the Bomb Warrior, even though it is teched, I don't think that just makes it just win the aggro matchups, right? Like Kargath, you could never see the Prime, even though the rush in the minion inherently makes it okay. You could just not see the Prime all game anyway. The Ooze might not make as big a difference. It's only one Ooze in the list and no way to like tutor it or anything. So it still holds the weaknesses that Bomb Warrior has against this aggressive lineup. It's just got a few tools that can help it out if drawn. So I do actually really like this ban from AyRoK.
Yeah, and the Kargath one is particularly interesting to me because I do wonder how much impact Kargath has against a deck like Face Hunter, for example, because you have to draw a 4-mana card, play a 4-mana card, have it die, then draw an 8-mana card, play an 8-mana card, which by definition costs 8, so you have to be on at least turn 8 of the game to actually have any effect out of it. Face Hunter can quite happily end games before any of that has an impact.
Yeah, and already as we get into this game, AyRoK getting off to a good start. There are a couple of cards you really want to see in pretty much any opening hand, and Scavenger's Ingenuity is definitely one of them. It just opens up plays, whether it's the Phase Stalker or the Volpatinga as well. So him just having access to this just straight away must make him feel pretty good about this opening so far. Just easy armor up there for Felkeine, but now things are going to have to start getting a little bit awkward. Already, this tour guide being pretty useful, and I love the infestation on one of these 3/3s because it makes so many different shaped minions that even a Blade Storm is going to be now impossible for it to deal with this board.
Yeah, you could also put it on the 1/1 here, which pushes 1 extra damage and plays around very, very specific combinations. Like upgrade Coin Blade Storm, for example. Like the upgrade here could take out the 1/1 and then the Blade Storm would kill a reasonable sized minion.
That's true, yeah. I think they're both good targets. The main thing is, you just don't want these Volpatingas wiped out by a Blade Storm. That's just priority number 1. If that doesn't happen, you are way more likely to win the game here.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't play around that because there would be 2 1/1s on the board at the point where you put the infestation on one of the 3/3s, right? So the Blade Storm would still just end up killing 1/1s regardless.
Oh, sure, because he'll be playing the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, though. Might actually have to be Evil Quartermaster. Oh, okay. So Evil Quartermaster Coin Shield Slam was an option there, but Coin into Brawl when Hunter is starting like this looks much more likely.
Yes. And
I think actually
AyRoK should spend this turn playing not minions.
Right. But there is a Dragonbane proc in this turn, which feels pretty good. Oh.
There's a Dragonbane proc next turn as well. Like, hit him for 1,000,000, get Coin Brawled, play your Dragonbane, press your hero power next turn.
What if they don't have Brawl? You just kill them.
Then this board wins already!
I'm not saying I'd do it. I'm just saying it's tempting.
So the counter argument to like the justification for playing a minion here is you have to describe to me a way this board gets cleared that isn't Brawl. And then that's a world where the Dragonbane gets to survive, and then you stick a Dragonbane. That's the only justification that I could hear for really
What about
going
the
for
rule
more
of
minion
spending all of your mana?
No, I just don't think it applies here.
I agree. I think... Okay, the other reason, I guess, is with this much damage and 2 kill commands and a bow in hand, does he actually need to maximize mana usage because he has so much damage, but they're all 3 costs?
That's a good point. So actually that is something that we should look at here, right? So if you fully overcommit, your opponent coins Brawl, he's at 14, and then you Eaglehorn Bow hero power on the following turn, he's at 9, and then you have Eaglehorn Bow, kill command for the following turn to deal that 9.
It's also super likely that a beast lives through Brawl, right?
Yeah.
So then kill command's active. Yeah.
I actually take it all back. Yeah, this turn actually passes test number 1 of Face Hunter. You don't have to get too complicated about what survives what. It just ticks the damage race boxes, right? Just to be able to deal 7 that turn with the hero power and the Dragonbane. I take it all back. That play was fine.
And actually, the Volpatinga pickup is nice, just having a beast, because you probably don't want to kill command this turn, even though a lot of the time you are looking for banking most kill command damage. But because you can swing the bow over 2 turns, it could be important. But then on the other side of that, AyRoK could go, well, actually, he does play a Swampu, so maybe actually it is enough to go kill command hero power attack, and then Volpatinga kill command hero power the turn after.
Yep.
So there were options there, but most importantly, Felkeine is just nearly dead. Yeah,
Maybe
suddenly,
shield slam him.
Suddenly, your point about Kargoth stands. It's turn 5.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like how much of a tech card is it if you're dying on turn 6, turn 7? Man?
To be fair, could be more of a nod towards a Demon Hunter matchup, which I think is way more likely to get used from. But regardless,
Volpatinga, kill command, hero power. AyRoK, I apologize. I should at no point question your aggro prowess. You were counting damage, I was too busy worrying about board. That's why you're a face hunter player and I'm not.
Yeah, really, really nice game. Really nice start there for AyRoK. And honestly, the games don't normally go that smoothly there, but that was just a solid opening. And all off the back of that Scavenger's Ingenuity, like I mentioned, it is just a card. If you don't get Face Stalker early on, you just want Scavengers, because it just makes all your other turns better, because your next draw is going to be so good. But yeah, really quick start there from AyRoK. Pretty impressed overall.
Yeah, really nice stuff. Obviously, that was the key turn. And again, just to reiterate, like, he fully understood. Like, I'm pretty sure he thought of everything that I was saying,
right.
But he also did the base level thing that you should always be doing with Face Hunter, which is counting turns. And he counted 3 turns, even if the brawl was there, right? Where in the world where there is no brawl, he counts 1 turn. Next turn, you're dead at that point. So with that clock on the line and just being able to draw any beast in his deck to even improve that clock, which is what he actually ended up happening. Absolutely right, I think, just to push the 7. That's all Dragonbane was there. It was 4 mana, 7 damage. He doesn't care if it lives or not.
Because suddenly, if you play it the turn after, post-brawl, then yeah, it can push some damage, but then there might be minions involved or a Blade Storm to kill it off and so on. But anyway, that was just game number 1 over very, very quickly indeed. We are going to go to a quick break while we set up our game number 2, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We are back and ready to continue our series here between AyRoK and Felkeine, and off to a quick start there for AyRoK, getting a pretty straightforward win with the Hunter, just getting that strong opening and not really letting up throughout the whole game there. The brawl was not enough to save Felkeine, but that does mean we are moving on to game number 2, and I believe Sottle at a quick glance, it is going to be the Rogue from AyRoK against the Druid of Felkeine.
And Felkeine's Druid, I'd say, is one of the least teched for these situations. Again, I think just because it's Druid and it's able to just do pretty powerful things regardless. It has good game against aggro just through Guardian Animals into Lake Threshers, through Ironbarks, through Crystal Powers, just, you know, all cards that you'd kind of run in the deck naturally. I think Druid is fairly well accomplished in most of these matchups outside of the Hunter that has all of those particular tools to be able to pick apart a lot of those big plays that I was describing. So now the Hunter's down. I can understand why Felkeine is resorting to his Druid in this position, but AyRoK just in his comfort zone here, honestly, like has Rogue and Demon Hunter left remaining. Obviously, the Demon Hunter is a pretty miserable matchup against the Druid, so I'm pretty sure he'll be quite happy here having picked up the Rogue matchup instead.
Yeah, one important thing to point out as well, because this isn't the Mali Druid, it does mean that Felkeine also has brooms, which, you know, if you don't get hold of that Guardian Animals, even just a broom, whether it's on a Thresher or one of the other beasts, can often be enough to at least help you fight back against an early aggro push. So, pretty big deal there. We do see Overgrowth, a Lightning Bloom, and a Nubisath Defender in the opening hand here for Felkeine, choosing to just keep the Overgrowth.
Just keep the Overgrowth indeed. Throwing away Bloom against aggro is very interesting because I think against aggro in particular, having access to the Bloom, you know, you can just one spike a turn with the Guardian Animals, and that's enough because they're an aggro deck, right? They're not really built to equip with that kind of board swing, and you can survive the overload on the following turn.
Yeah, but
instead he finds Nature Studies, growth curve instead, the dream. But honestly, AyRoK's hand looking pretty dreamy on the other side as well, with Spy Mistress into Greyheart Sage, Hook Scimitar to back all that up, has the Krasnov as well. Would love to have the Self-Sharpening Sword, I'm sure, to be able to put maximum pressure on here, but he has a good runners-up prize. Never mind, he's hit the gold medal. Boom, triple S on curve.
Yeah, and even a big deal as well is, although we can see that there isn't actually a Guardian Animals available for Felkeine, the big deal for AyRoK is he does have that secret passage, so if he feels forced into it, he could go fishing for that one-off sap in his list, just to be able to bounce back a big Druid minion such as this Mount Seller. It is one of those, it's a bit of a rarity because he only runs one, of course, but it is one of those game-winning turns, right? It's just that sap into the Druid big turn.
It's very true. Been a dynamic in Hearthstone for really since release that sap was the reason a lot of the time why Rogue was just powerful against Druid. Druid ramped mana, they tried to play these quite slow minions just on the merit of the fact that they got to do it quicker than everyone else, and sap can really punish that.
Interesting call here. What do you think AyRoK's considering? Like this, the self-sharpening looks just too good in general, but were there any alternatives that turn?
There were, like playing minion presence first, just kind of in classic aggro philosophy, like investing your mana into your minions first is usually something to consider because weapons have charge essentially, right? But I do think self-sharpening sword is a unique case in that you do build up the damage over time, so the earlier you get it down, the quicker the damage comes ramping through. And if Guardian Animals was going to be the curve play from Felkeine there, just adding one stealth minion to the board wasn't really going to help because a Lake Thresher comes out most of the time, right? And then you're going to get punished.
Yeah, if that number is 3 that you're creating, you know you're in for a bad time to a Lake Thresher, of course.
It's a count to 20 kind of hand, Draven.
Yeah. Wait, that didn't go face.
It didn't. Huh? These will, though. Sinister Strike, mana spent, take 3.
And even this Krasnov might not look super impactful, but the combination of 4 damage and then increased weapon swing could actually help AyRoK get through exactly this turn, which is the Mount Seller turn.
Oh!
Oasis?
Heal for 12?
What, Scenarios? Just 2 taunts?
I know.
Ah,
Pretty attractive as well, right?
Yeah, good old Scenarios. Where's he been?
But also, like, not even necessarily just +2/+2. There's an opportunity. Sorry, the 2/2 taunts. There's an opportunity that scenarios could even be used for +2/+2 with the width of the board that's going down here. But I think the big kicker is Bloom is being cast this turn. So I think Felkeine just wants to have playable cards in his hand, even if he just intends to overflow next turn. He still finds himself in a position where he'd rather have playable cards in hand than be locked out from one of his options. Sap is picked up from AyRoK, but Felkeine played around it very nicely, splitting up the best minion and the Ironbark target on the board to mitigate the impact that Sap does have against him.
So is this ever like Krastinov and the 3/1 into the 4/7, go face with the weapon and save the Sap for next turn?
That's exactly what I think it is, yes.
Oh, wait. Oh. What if he just saps the Mount Seller anyway?
Why would you do that?
I get, yeah, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. Trying to work out his well,
you're doing so well, Raven.
No. This is just like the good play of cards. I was trying to work out whether there's any value to giving kind of like a dead Mount Seller in hand. It's because you'd imagine he would have played more spells if he had them, like the 0 cost that last turn, right? So I'm trying to work out if there's any good way, but no, this is still just better. You get the heal for 12. AyRoK felt that.
Yes, he did. Felt it deep in his soul.
And that is just a lethal setup for Felkeine this turn.
Yep. Oh, second passage now.
So he needs to passage into the Corsairs. Is that? He just has to. Right?
Sinister Strike, Sap, play one passage, hit and eviscerate. That way he'd be dealing 14 this turn. His opponent would be at 11, and then he has outs from the second secret passage next turn.
But he's just dead, right? If he only saps the Mount Seller,
yeah,
he's just dead without a taunt.
I think it's still the play though, because he still can find one backstab and still find the Corsairs as you were talking about.
But he has he can do the damage. Yeah, I think sap is fine. But I think after that, he has to just do this draw now. Because he still has all the damage and another passage for next turn anyway.
Yeah.
And his weapon's going to get bigger. He knows he has a Sinister Strike next turn if he survives. I think this was right. And he got rewarded with that Dread Corsair. And also, the Volpera are going to push even more damage.
Yep. So now he has 10 damage on the weapon. Actually, just 8 damage on the weapon because the Volpera definitely dies if Felkeine wants it to. Plus the Sinister Strike is 11, so he's still a little bit short of just a one-of Eviscerate lethal off the second passage, especially now. Especially now! Oh, wow. Especially now! Especially now! Hello?
Okay. Honestly,
the game client could not even handle how disgusting that overflow was. It's completely given up on displaying what's happening.
Yeah, looks like the spectator on our side is a little bit broken right now, but all I can say is Felkeine is winning. He made all the trades there, I believe, got that Anubis down, healed for a bit too, and made sure everything was good. So we will do something to catch up on this game client spectator bug for you as quickly as possible. Or most likely, we will just come to our faces because we are going to end the game pretty soon, I imagine.
Certainly looking that way, yeah. Just trying to reconcile in my head how much health Felkeine's got himself up to and how many taunts he has in play. And he is in serious trouble, is AyRoK. If there wasn't any healing, there was so much healing and so much additional taunt thrown out there from Felkeine with the Crystal Power, the Overflow, the Anubis Defender, and the Ironbark that were all picked up that turn. Like, I could not possibly see a way that AyRoK was going to resolve his way through that game.
Yeah, and that hidden oasis was such a big deal, right? At least for Felkeine, because that gave him that one turn just to get everything together and just be a little bit safer. And it had to be something incredible because you can see that it being so big at 12 health. If it was any other heal, if he got a Crystal Power, it's just not enough, right? It's not going to make him as safe as possible. So it does sound like the game is continuing at least. So we are going to be able to get into it right now. We do apologize about that. It was a little bit of a spectator bug we're trying to deal with. So where are we now, Sottle? Give us the rundown.
Yeah, so you can kind of see what happened. Like, AyRoK scrambled, he threw a bit of damage in terms of removal and then went for the Jandis. He actually hit a really strong Jandis outcome, but he needed defensive options in that position. He needed to hit big taunts of his own or rush minions to be able to address the board. So, fret not, dear viewers, you missed basically nothing there. You saw what was important, which was the overflow get ripped from Felkeine, and then all of the defensive options coming off that overflow in one go. That was the game ender. AyRoK did his best to piece something together that was going to keep him alive, but the options just weren't there in the end.
Yeah, and we did see just a small effect of some of these choices, right? Like Anubis Defender, we are seeing a few players mess around with in Druid again, and it does pay off. Just that extra taunt after a turn, just building out some of these more awkward turns, whether it is just overflow and then having actually something on board to play in that same turn. Normally with overflow, it's a very weak tempo-based turn, but high value, of course. So we are seeing these Anubis, and then obviously now everyone is just playing Crystal Powers and Animated Broomsticks like as a regular choice in Druid, and I think we just start to see why, because these cards just consistently get work done in almost any matchup, honestly.
Yeah, and it temporarily looked like AyRoK would have been able to go over the line, I think, without that hidden Oasis. Of course, that was the big kicker. It was a smart choice from Felkeine off the Discover. He did pick it up. He did use it to fill in that one awkward turn where he was overloaded, where he was going to need something to do that was probably, keep himself alive over the threat that was coming through from the self-sharpening sword. So just having that 12 healing to buffer the gap really gave him the opportunity then to spend his whole next turn overflowing, and gave himself the opportunity at least to hit some of the big defensive cards that he put in the deck, which of course he did hit in spades.
Yeah, it does look like our next game is going to be AyRoK on the Rogue once again, with Felkeine queuing up Warrior this time. So this looks like a little bit of a trickier matchup, at least from the way I look at it, because in this Warrior for Felkeine, he is running the Acidic Swamp Boots, like we mentioned in game number 1. There is the Kargath. Again, whether there's time for that, we can discuss. But most importantly, these waves of 1 damage from Risky Skipper, from Bladestorm, look like they're going to be a lot more effective in actually removing the threat than they are versus Hunter, where normally with Hunter the damage is already done by that point.
Yeah, this is the opposite of the dynamic we saw in the Boar series, where, Boar was probably right to leave up Warrior because he didn't really have any of the decks that were vulnerable, in particular to the Risky Skipper variation that Silvername had. Right. Whereas in this case, this is Felkeine being smart and bringing the Risky Skipper variation in a situation where he knows he's going to be facing the matchups that it's good against. Right, he expects AyRoK to bring Face Hunter. He expects there to be some kind of stealth rogue on the other side as well. So him having the Risky Skipper Warrior here actually makes a lot of sense and maximizes his chances in the series overall.
Yeah, even this Corsair, Bloodsail Corsair from the Raider there is insane. Already Felkeine has Ankar to draw more of his pirates. He has an additional weapon impact card. It's not weapon removal, it's only the 1 charge, but still huge. Still has the Risky Skipper. Wrench Caliber if Felkeine ever feels safe enough to play it. This is looking like it's stacking up to be a tough game here for AyRoK.
Weapon Impact sounds like one of those fighting games where no one's ever heard of it, but you go to Evo and there's just 4 people sat in the corner just playing it the entire week. They never do anything else.
Yeah, there's a tournament for 20 quid or something,
exactly.
And a bag of crisps or something. You're like, yeah, okay, I'm playing in that. You would probably have good netcode though.
Oh, he's gone there. Raven knows the hot button issues in the FGC.
At least I didn't say
from listening to me complain about them. Oh no, okay. Step too far. Wind it back. Honestly, Raven, you have to get so controversial these days. What's wrong with you?
Rank 1 Legend Hearthstone going against lowest MMR new player. I like skill-based matchmaking. I want to play against people who've never played the game before.
I know.
Most importantly, though, this weapon's going to start swinging here for AyRoK and start stacking up some of that damage. But there is that final charge, which is kind of a weird one. I've not really come across this, but how do you use Corsair versus a self-sharpening sword? Do you wait till the last charge? Do you just chuck it down when it's actually, you can fit it into your turn naturally? I don't know.
Right. So there's the argument, because there's Krastenov as a threat specifically, right? It can be very useful to conceal that information from your opponent, because they might just leave the weapon on one charge, as AyRoK's going to do here. Whereas if you destroy like the second to last charge, for example, then AyRoK will know to hold on to the last charge until Krastenov can come down and buff it back up again. So probably waiting to destroy the last charge is the most consistent way of doing it.
It looks like Felkeine's going to get the opportunity to do so. It's not something that AyRoK is realistically going to play around. I think that's a bit of a stretch, knowing that the only weapon removal Felkeine actually has in his deck is a hard destruction in the form of the Swampoos. So it's not like, you know, this is going to hurt AyRoK, but it's not like this is, oh, he should have left himself on 2 charges. Like, you can't really expect this. And he does have the Scimitar as well as a backup, so it's not like he's completely out of weapons going forward.
There's no way you add another Spy Mistress to this board, right? Okay. He looked like he was very carefully considering playing it there, but you've just seen Corsair Cash just get you've just seen Ankar get completely exhausted from Felkeine. There's every chance that there's Risky Skipper in hand right now, plus the generated Pirates from a Sky Raider, plus potentially the other Sky Raider as well, plus a Lackey. Like, a Risky Skipper clear is just so apparent in that position. It would seem weird there for AyRoK if he played another Spy Mistress.
Yeah, the roll of the eyes there looked so far back, he was looking behind him at that point after seeing that Corsair take down that last charge. But he did then draw straight into the self-sharpening sword, so still just has a way to keep cooking with these weapons. So can't be too upset with that.
Right. Evil Quartermaster number 2 could well be on the table here.
And getting Titanic Lackeys in a situation like this is massive as well. Just having those taunt minions to be awkward in the way. Rogue doesn't particularly play good ways at clearing off taunts. Just punches through them most of the time. But again, all of that is damage you are missing. It's not like Demon Hunter that can blade dance them away or anything like that.
Right. Sword and Board, the vanilla good option here. 2 armor, kill a small minion, generally what you want to be doing, but there is some consideration, I guess, for Slam, just for cycling a little bit. You do have that Ooze, Ooze could maybe save you 10, 15, 20 health over the course of this game, depending on how big that sword ended up getting.
AyRoK saying, nope, none of these cards are actually going to progress the game that well. All this direct damage can be saved for later. Let's do something a little bit spicier this turn, and okay. Looks good to me. That is an insane amount of damage.
It is.
Jeez.
This is the delinquent, the odd one out here. Play everything else. Yep, AyRoK seems to agree.
Yep, just cash all that damage in. And he knows he's got even more face damage next turn. He saw his first self-sharpening sword get pinged away by the Corsair earlier. But now it really is just that Ooze that he has to dodge from Felkeine.
Sword and Board will come in clutch here, though, alongside the Shield Slam. Be able to clear this up, start pushing some face damage, can put a taunt in play himself, and the race is very much on here. And honestly, right now, weirdly enough, it's a race that Felkeine's kind of winning.
It is, but AyRoK, he can actually just bounce this 2-5 if he really wants to with that sap.
It's not ideal, though, is it? It's not ideal. Neither is drawing 2 bombs in a row.
Say, just dying isn't ideal either. AyRoK,
just
do to
please.
Me. Like, what excuse me?
I know you're French, but over here in England, that is an unacceptable gesture, okay? I will be having a word with your parents.
That has changed everything, though. Those 2 bombs have changed absolutely everything. Because although bouncing the 2-5 is obviously not great because he gets to re-armor. He does push more damage than armor is gained, and obviously gets threaded a taunt anyway. But the difference now is just Felkeine could just lethal him next turn because he has the weapon already equipped. The bombs went off and put him down to 6. Oh. And also, this could just get him now a damage lackey.
Yep. Not to mention just straight up the 3 armor that it is going to get him.
Yeah.
That's why Evil Quartermaster Titanic Lackey is just such a good combination in this deck against aggro.
And it's the same against Hunter, honestly. Because you don't really ever want to go through it, and sometimes it's hard. It takes so much damage. And then there's the armor. It's really tough. Armor Smith might mix things up a little bit here as well.
Yeah, has the skipper.
I'm not being stupid and just missing lethal, am I? before I start talking about this. Okay, I'm not. Hey, it could be like Armor Smith, trade, skipper, Sky Raider.
Quartermaster first. Okay, yeah, I like this. You Quartermaster first because if you got Rush Lackey or Shoot Lackey, you can then just coerce the minion and you have lethal. And then with that mist, you can probably just progress from there and just continue to do the same thing, most likely.
Yep. That's actually fair. You know what? I actually didn't think about Rush Lackey as well, being a way to get out of that. So yeah, that makes complete sense.
If this is going to go anything like we've seen the rest of the game, that bomb's just on top.
No, may as well have been with this draw, honestly.
Yeah.
There's nothing AyRoK can do. Not a deck that's known for its defensive options, and AyRoK going to take a loss there versus Felkeine's Warrior, and I think slowly we are starting to see Felkeine's gambit, I guess, at how to build his lineup for this week paying off. Going up against AyRoK there in that game, just really paying off for him with just the Warrior build in general. Not only the risky skipper, which, to be fair, didn't really have much action there, but just generally having a few more defensive tools. But I just wonder how much damage that Corsair actually saved him overall. Not only just a 1-2 chipping off the 1 durability, but just another minion to help either trade or push damage the other way.
When you actually start to look at how anti-aggro this Bomb Warrior list is, right? Like, not only does he have the skipper package, which is just in itself generally stronger in the aggro and burn-based matchups, he also has room for those 2 evil quartermasters that we saw, which usually aren't in that deck, but he's found room to get it in there. He also has a Coerce, just as another removal tool. He also has a Kargath Blade Fist, which is not a card that we very often see. Like, the actual bomb package itself is very light. There's no upgrades in the deck, for example, which, you know, is generally considered a pretty core card to the way the deck is built. So Felkeine is very all in on an anti-aggro strategy this week, and so far it is coming good against AyRoK.
Yeah, and we're about to see it as well in his Mage list, which is the only deck he has left to play, of course, with his Demon Hunter being banned out. It's a very, I guess, general or standard list. There's the 1 Devolving Missiles in there, which can be pretty powerful versus AyRoK's lineup as well. But there is just the 1 Firebrand in his list that can help out a great deal, again, if he draws into it, which I think is the big question for me about Felkeine's choices. I think overall everything makes sense, but there's a lot of, well, this card's good if you draw it in the first 3 turns of the game. So, you know, because he's running one-offs of a lot of these like anti-aggro tools, it's just I do wonder if it was ever be made better or worse if you actually included 2-ofs instead.
And it's kind of an old-fashioned theory of playing aggro and almost a lost art in Hearthstone these days, because a lot of direct damage, like outright aggro options, have been deleted from the game, right? Like Leroy being the most recent one, but there's being a long list of them before that. Right. Where now an aggro deck is kind of a deck that builds a board early and then snowballs their board. Whereas way back in the day, sort of around launch and for the first couple of years of Hearthstone's existence, aggro decks actually just hit you in the face and counted to 30 a lot of the time. And quite often the theory behind that is that I'll build my deck in a way where it does that so consistently that anything you tech against me does not happen as consistently as I built my deck to kill you, so I still come out ahead.
Yep, that's actually pretty fair. Only, I guess, Face Hunter might be the one unique, still aggro, like raw aggro deck that we have right now.
When was the last time we played Face Hunter before this expansion?
No, that's what I mean.
Before Lepinomes came back in with the side quest, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, we've only really just had that back.
Yeah.
AyRoK, he's going to be on his Demon Hunter, though, here. Typically, or at least, you stand on the other side of this, right? You don't think this is a good matchup for Demon Hunter?
No, I think this is a good matchup for Demon Hunter.
Oh, were we talking about Hunter the other day? It was just Hunter versus Mage we were talking about off stream,
yes,
right?
That's correct.
Okay, sorry, my apologies. But yeah, this is definitely, I was about to argue with you a lot, but this is definitely a good matchup for Demon Hunter here for AyRoK. So trying to just get an additional win here against Felkeine at least so far.
Yeah, it's probably less good when you draw 4 green 2-mana spells in your opening hand. It's not the ideal opener, but just having Blade Dances locked up is not the worst thing in the world, because it does give you a lot of license to ignore minions and just shit damage face. However, in order to even do that, you also then need the weapons to support your Blade Dancers to even then allow you to start hitting your opponent in the face. Whew. Instant Earth Elemental.
I'll tell you something, Sol. I'm not going to wind you up saying about mind games with this one, because it is a pretty straightforward pick there.
Yep.
Oh, he does get the Marrow Slicer, though.
What do you even do? Marrow Slicer, take 7, value trade something with the Cane, and then Blade Dance, I guess? I'm upset.
I mean, honestly, it feels bad, but it's pretty sweet for AyRoK, because if he did not draw that Marrow Slicer, he's looking to be in a little bit more trouble than he is now.
Right.
Because if he had to have used Twin Slice that turn, then that is a problem, right? Because then just so much of his reach is gone. Whereas at least he only uses a charge of his weapon here. Keeps the Cane alive as well. I think that went about as well as it could have gone, honestly.
Yeah. Felkeine just continuing to play for tempo right now. Somewhat unique situation here to be going into turn 7 and still have a completely undiscounted Mana Giant in your hand. That's not really something I'm used to seeing while playing this deck.
Yeah, the game has progressed, I think, very quickly. I feel like I blinked and missed the first 4 turns of the game.
Yeah, we were talking about the history of aggro, Raven. That's what happened.
I mean, it's a good topic. Yeah, just more tough calls. Does this just... I mean... Because it is Raz, and I think AyRoK wants Felkeine to force a ping out next turn, I wouldn't even mind just Twin Slice and just get this second Blade Dance cast.
I grow impatient.
Really?
The other option is just Lapidary Hero Power Go, obviously, but I feel like it just opens up Raz to cause even more issues. Maybe I'm too scared of this minion.
Yeah, so I am scared of Raz here, but I'm also scared of just not having Blade Dance in my hand anymore. And AyRoK just hasn't really seen any threats this game up until this point, right? Like he's had to Blade Dance a Raz and a Jandis. So everything powerful that the deck can still do is potentially still remaining.
That's true, but like you just said, he knows or will know the Mana Giant is on 8 even if he has one.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not likely to see a big Mana Giant turn this turn, so maybe he just does this to get the space, right?
Oh, go. This could actually still be a pretty insane turn. Partner, yep, discount it, draw 2. Evocation? No.
AyRoK does have now, I believe, at least a reasonable militia. Yeah. If he wants it. Or maybe it's just a Shard Shatter Hero Power Mana Feeder?
Only 2 Soul Fragments in the deck right now, though, so...
Yeah, I think that's the difference, right? If there was any more, we could talk. I think 2 just is not strong enough.
Yeah. Ooh, Apprentice is back.
Back again. Does look like a potential just Power of Creation turn.
Yeah.
If not, then it's probably looking at Firebrand Ray of Frost, but it seems a little bit wasteful. And
yo,
that's a good one. Cane already gone. AyRoK is running the 1 consume magic list, but 1 currently doesn't have 1, and 2 only runs 1. So can't exactly get rid of both of these guys.
Yeah, Double Smug Senior was pretty nutty there for Felkeine.
And this is where you see the difference now. Blade Dance was used earlier.
Right.
And could have paid off a lot this turn, but the problem is, would this turn have actually looked even worse because there'd be a Raz still on the board, potentially,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's the thing.
You can't just say, oh, it would have been good now. But it is a point you were mentioning, maybe there were some more threats later down that Blade Dance could be better with, and it was definitely a tough turn, not straightforward by any means.
But that was the problem, right? I called it out right at the start, is that AyRoK's opening hand was Chaos Strike, Blade Dance, Blade Dance.
Right.
If 2 of the first 4 cards you draw are Blade Dances, you're probably going to have to use your Blade Dances because those are the cards that you have. So I was trying to find something better to do that turn to preserve a Blade Dance. I didn't see it in time, so I can't really criticize AyRoK for going for the play there. Now Felkeine looking like he can just push, potentially, even with this Smug Senior. Kane is already gone. So Taunt is very real in this spot. Little known fact, they've actually moved on from naming cards after Hearthstone World Champions. They've started naming them out of Hearthstone Casters now. This is a combination of me and Lorinda. I'm the smug part and he's the senior part.
Hey, not bad. I wonder how long you've been kept that one in your back pocket.
Literally just thought of it.
Yeah.
Dude, I tell you when I've been cooking things up for weeks. I'm honest about this.
I just knew it would wind you up, honestly.
Yeah.
There was actually Firebrand, Ray of Frost, and the Giant that turn as an option. It might not have actually cleared. It wouldn't have cleared everything off, of course, but it was an option that actually lands a Giant on board. Something just to consider there for Felkeine, but just went for the additional taunts.
Yeah, I like this turn. I like this turn a lot. Threaten lethal. As I said, Kane gone, so the taunt is very real. Threatening lethal on board, 2 giant taunts, no real way for them to be dealt with because you have kept track of the soul fragments that your opponent has at the moment, which is 0.
Also, as well, 7 health is very annoying against Militia, right? Like, that's not the shape you want it to go to. Even if there were soul fragments. He just can't get through it, can he? Unless I'm missing something. Even if he used Shard Shatter with the fragments that he could generate, it's just not enough.
Time grows short.
Also, with that Militia in his hand still, he never got to the point where he could go for a Skull, like a big out, or, some kind of one big crazy turn setup with the Altruist, maybe. Yeah, AyRoK frustrated there and probably a little bit disappointed too, just falling victim to a few of the key cards here from Felkeine. Gonna push the final bit of damage and just get that taunt wall up. It stopped AyRoK even going for the long shot lethal. Felkeine takes the victory in this match here over AyRoK's aggro lineup.
Yeah, clean win for Felkeine. This is kind of what he set up to do this week alongside his friend and practice partner Zim, who kind of set up the same way, knowing that they were both playing against AyRoK this week. They decided to pool their resources together, combine their impeccable brains, and come up with a way and a lineup that was going to beat the expected decks that he was bringing. As I keep mentioning, AyRoK did the right thing. Like he took the week to at least try and throw people off the scent by not just bringing aggro every single week, but in the end, I think Felkeine was just that one layer deeper, was able to figure out that AyRoK was going to be back on the aggro again and got rewarded for it with a very, very, very anti-aggro lineup on his side.
Yeah, now for me, it's going to be interesting following the next couple of weeks we have left to see if AyRoK's future opponents have a similar strategy. Or, on the other side of that, if AyRoK goes, well, I got targeted and kind of bust that week, maybe I have to actually just change it up again and just play, I guess, the general lineups, include the Priest, the Druid, the Warriors and stuff, and just try and say, well, okay, I'll just try and outplay versus trying to just force aggro and go for it that way. So pretty tough decisions to be made on all parts and for all the players here in Grandmasters, and that does lead us to our match number